Welcome to another presentation of the Globe Sound Healing Conference. Now we have Yuval Ran. Welcome, Yuval.
Hey, good to be with you, David. Thank you for having this interview with me.
Welcome. Yuval is an award-winning composer who has been involved in the world of music therapy since a commission in 1990 from researcher Robert Monroe of the Monroe Institute for hemisync music composition using binaural beats. He's collaborated with neuroscientist Waldman and Dr. Andrew Newberg, psychotherapist Sanjay Manchanda, pioneer healers Dr. Richard Gold and Gail Land, Sufis, Kabbalists, and Ayurvedic healers, and is the founding director of the record label Meta Mindfulness Music, which produces quality intentional healing music for use in clinics and treatment centers worldwide. Yuval's book, Divine Attunement, Music as a Path to Wisdom, won Gold Medal Award for Best Book in Spirituality category in the Indie Book Awards. He has composed scores for the Oscar-winning film West Bank Story, PBS Nova documentaries such as Breaking the Maya Code, art house films such as Proteus, and scores for site-specific installations at the Getty Museum, Japan American Center, LAX, and more. He's the founder and executive director of the charity nonprofit organization Inspired Sound Initiative, dedicated to providing free of charge educational performance arts programming to underserved communities and youth at risk worldwide. For more information, yuvalranmusic.com, metamindfulnessmusic.com, and inspiredsoundinitiative.org. Welcome. What have
Thank
you been up to lately?
Right now, I'm working on a big project of medicinal plants music, where
Oh,
we've recorded. We're working with herbalists from Chinese medicine and Western herbalists. We're getting the formulas of the plants, teas, and remedies for different conditions, where there may be seven different plants, and in the herbal medicine, and there's percentages of how much that herb, how much that plant, how much this. And we recorded about 150 medicinal plants in different botanical gardens in California. And I'm using a device called Plant Wave that I'm connecting to the leaves of the medicinal plants and recording the sound that comes out of the plants. And I'm not using the sound as it is, but rather I'm notating all the notes that the plants are singing or giving out based on the electrical vibrations that are going on within the
yeah.
plant.
The amount of electricity flowing through. More electricity creates
Exactly.
a higher note, and less electricity creates a lower note.
Right. And when the electricity happens, that gives us the rhythm,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So the plant has its own rhythms, and then suddenly the plant is not active, it's taking a pause, and then it's doing something completely crazy. It's non-human music. It's weird. It's like music from another planet, and I'm working on sorting out some musical building blocks that are typical to each of the plants, and then I'm creating new music based on that, which we hope will carry the energy of the medicinal quality of the plant through music. So that's the plants medicinal plants project that I'm in the midst of.
I
And
love that. We had the device from Damenhor,
yes,
and
Damanhur in Italy, they did that too.
and then we octavized it down and
Uh-huh.
played it through the sound table,
Oh
so
wow.
you could be vibrated by the plant. The one thing that was really interesting I found was when the sun was up,
Yes.
the plant was happy. It was doing a
Yes.
lot. And when the
Yes.
sun went down, it was like,
Right. Yes. So we think a lot of it has to do with the plant making food from the sun, and it's busy making food and working with energy, and there's all that electricity that we can hear through the musical notes.
I love this. It makes me think, and I'm sure you thought about this, about getting together with some shamans and
Yes.
actually tune the ones that can tune in to the sound or the song of the plant. and then see how that corresponds and even make it even more refined.
This is great. I didn't think about it, and I just wrote this as a note for myself. Shamans. What I was talking with a friend who's an expert meditator, he said it would be good to sit with the plants and meditate with the plants and get that as additional information in addition to the notes.
Yeah.
And so we spend time with each of the plant. We videotape the plant. We spend time with the plant. We talked also with a curator in the botanical gardens about each of the plants. So it's very important for me also the look, the visual, the colors, because it's all vibrations. So
Right, right.
when I decide how to work with that music, I consult those, the meditation session, the video, the colors, the shape, in addition to the musical notes.
I've got one thing that I could add to it and see what you think. If you take the rhythm and
Yes.
octavize it up, you've got the key of the song,
Octavize the rhythm
right?
to what?
Right. You
An
can
octave
also, well,
higher?
or just take, actually, you don't octavize it. What you do is you could you just divide it by if it's in BPM, you divide it by 60. If it's
Okay.
cycles per second, you octavize it up. And now you got the key of the song and the rhythm is in tune with the key.
Ah, I see. I see. Matching the tempo to the key,
Right.
to the BPM. Yeah, I didn't think about it. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, right now, the rhythms are wild. They seem randoms, but there are some building blocks that make sense for a human. So it's really a collaboration between something that is not human with a human composer, and the result is quite strange and unusual. I mean, it's like 20th century, 21st century atonal kind of music, but there's some incredible beauty in it. For example, the formula for sleep has lavender and valerian and passion fruit and all those uh, relaxing, beautiful plants that you just touch a lavender and you put your fingers and you smell. It relaxes you. There's some energy through the smell. You listen to the music that comes out of the lavender and the valerian and the passion fruit and those plants for sleep. The melodies, the combinations are rather sweet. They're really they're really pleasant and calming and soothing. And you listen to the plants that are for, let's say, the immunity system boost. You have echinacea and you have all kinds of ginseng and oh, the music that came out of these plants very aggressive. It's like military fighting scene in a tonal scale. It's really intense. And
Ah,
you think about the immunity. Those plants that kills bacteria and kills viruses and fight for your immunity. Hey, it's not the lavender, it's not the valerian. They are powerful, they are aggressive, and you hear it in the music. You hear it in the combination of the notes, more dissonant, more wide leaps to like minor ninth up, jumping. And it's almost like, those soldiers jumping and running around. It's very interesting. And it's going on. I did digestion, the digestion plants, and you hear the music, it's almost like it's almost like a little factory that is doing something to break something, and you think about the digestion system, it's interesting. No big leaps like the immunity system, no so much those blaring dissonance. So as I'm working on this project, I find very interesting things. The way I work on
we
it is
hooked up
different.
we hooked up
Yeah.
mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms,
This is our next project.
and the music was like trippy.
Very trippy, huh?
Yeah.
Did you use the device from Italy on the
Uh-huh.
mushrooms?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, what I find that is inaccurate in my mind is that most of the plant music that I heard thus far is um, they're taking the notes, the vibration from the plants, and then they assign it to some synthesizer arpeggio or pre-made pattern or a filter opening that the synthesizer was programmed to do. And you listen to that, the plant just triggered something that a human programmed in the synthesizer to do. And it sounds very new agey and very spacious and kind of interesting, but it's not really the plant. It's the synthesizer programming that a human programmed. So it's a little bit, it's artistic. On an artistic level, it's all fine. It's art. Art is art. But from a scientific point of view, and I work with scientists. I'm not a scientist. I'm a composer, but I work with doctors and scientists, and this is an issue that we are trying to stay away from. We try to be as authentic as possible. And I'll give you an example. When I work with the notes of the plants, I'm allowing myself to be just like an editor and an orchestrator. I'm not allowed to change the notes of what the plants did or the rhythms. I can say, okay, I don't need this section and I don't need this section. I choose to use that section of the performance of the plant. But uh, you know, but I can't move one note up or down or change because it's vibration. And so we're trying to be, one to one authentic with what comes from the plant.
I love it. You know, my biggest takeaway from that device
Hmm.
was, oh my God, this plant is totally alive.
Right,
And
right.
it's really, so I would love to stay in touch, and because
Absolutely.
we've got a whole program for kids,
Yes,
and
that's
to really
exactly.
show the kids how, because I've never felt so connected to a plant in my life.
Exactly, David. You put the finger on it. I think one of the most important aspect of this project is the education for children. And the people in the botanical gardens where we recorded, they can't wait for us to finish. They want me to come and do workshops for children in the botanical gardens to show them that each of the medicinal plants in the medicinal plants garden has a song.
Love it.
It is he's singing. That's the plant. The plant sings. That's the song of the blueberry, and here's the song for the elderberry, and they are different. And suddenly, if you're a kid, I mean, how could you step on a bush? How can you step on a plant? It's a plant that has a song. It makes it become a being, a real full being. And I think that is one of the most important aspect of this project that I really want to reach towards. And as soon as I put together this workshop, I'll let you know, and maybe we can, and I'll send you the materials so you can use it with the kids. I'll tell you one thing. I've done so far two workshops, one for children and one for teachers. The kids, what I did with the children, I wrote out 8 bars from the blackberry tree and I sent it to the teachers. It was during COVID, so I couldn't be there. I was on Zoom. The kids were in the school on Zoom, and the teacher gave them the recorders. They all know recorders, and they all played the 8 bars that and I showed them a video of us recording the blackberry bush. I showed them how it was connected, how it was recorded, and here are the sounds. Here's the song that the blackberry sang, and now you guys are playing it. And they played it, and they took it so seriously because I told them that they are the first children in the whole entire world that will play a song that was composed by the blackberry bush. And they were so serious. They were fourth graders, fifth graders. And after that, I heard that they all went home and told all the parents about it. The parents came back to the school and said, what's going on? The kids are telling that they're playing composition made by a BlackBerry, and the BlackBerry is alive making songs. And I think there's something very exciting in this
I
direction.
love it. In the program, what we did is we actually did body percussion. I'd have them do 5 spots, like bum bum dee ka poo da, right? And then we say, look at this plant that's got 5 petals on the flower. And then we did 8 spots, da ba
Ah,
da da ba da da da, right? And said, look, here's a plant it's got 8 petals. Did you know that most plants are 3, 5, and 8 based on the Fibonacci?
right.
And they're never going to see that world again. This is the way education should be, is
Exactly.
the math of nature and the geometry
Right.
of nature. So there's a reason. So it's connected. I have no idea why I learned the math I learned in school.
Right. Right. That's great to know that you also work with young people.
So, okay, so I've got something that's completely different, but ties in completely. That I want to tell you, I think you'll find interesting. And
Mhm.
that is, I have a woman named Jamie Liu, one of our previous instructors, who can find a person's soul song.
Oh, wow.
And so she had me start to create compositions based on the intuitive soul song that she would come up with.
She sings it,
Right.
right? She looks at the person, she spends 2 minutes with the person, and a song comes through her. Wow.
Exactly. So, of course, the first thing I did was found the rhythm and programmed in a rhythm, and then started following the melody, and then did arrangement around the melody that she had come up with.
Yeah. Fascinating. Fascinating. Yeah, I would love to hear some of those. Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the big question for you.
Yes.
If you had all the money in the world, what would you do to help people on the planet?
It's a great question. I'm a musician, but involved with a lot of education, like you are. And I really believe in education. I really believe in education. So there are so many challenges, there's so many problems, but I think that if we could affect the ground up education, the fundamentals, and that could change the world. That can solve the problems of the world. If we can really educate people like we are talking right now through embodiment, through direct experience, through one wonder, the wonder of the universe, the wonder of the planet, with a lot of music and performance arts and yoga and spirituality. And the closest thing that I can think of is Waldorf education, where my kids have been in a Waldorf schools all their childhood. Um, there's Montessori and there's Waldorf. Um, I'm not aware of many other schools. There's probably some small, very progressive and innovative small school that I never heard about. I'm sure they are out there, but as a big movement, there's Waldorf and Montessori. And Montessori is just usually preschool. It's very rare to find more than kindergarten. So what I would do to answer your question, I would grant every child on this earth a world of education. I would turn all the public school to a world of education or to something along what we're talking about, where it's about wonder, embodiment, the arts, spirituality on the form of yoga, meditation, and every child would get to play string instruments in third grade. Every child gonna be singing in the choir. Every child gonna do theater. Every child will play brass woodwind instruments in fifth grade and continue to play string instruments in the string orchestra. That is what they do in the world of schools.
It's
And
very similar to what we're doing. We're getting a major grant to create 60
good,
schools around the world in different countries. And we've
incredible.
already got 2,500 exercises for the kids from 3 months all the way up to 18 years. We actually got a grant for $100,000 to create this program in a Montessori school that
Wow.
had the full range from 3 months to 18 years. So
Okay.
we're so with the grant, we're going to do 3 years of curriculum development beyond the 2,500 exercises we already have. And it's almost exactly what you're talking about.
Excellent, excellent. I want to ask, what is the name of the method or the school system, or is it like your college degree?
We call it, oh, that system for the kids?
Yeah, for the
Yeah,
60
we
schools,
call it the Sound Education
sound
Association.
education. I like that.
Hmm.
Um, I have a friend, a colleague named Rich Melheim, which I'll introduce you to. He's been the educator expert in neuroscience and early child development, and he developed a system of teaching colors and numbers and language, all with music, all with songs. Everything has a song. Every object that a kid learn, every number, every animal, everything has a song, and you learn everything through a song. There's hundreds of songs
I
in,
love it.
in the system.
I love it.
So I, I know that he and you and myself, we are all on the same wavelength. So I'll put our mind together. In this, mentioning something that the viewers may find interesting in connection to that, what I've created for early child, there's 3 albums called Kids Sanctuary, and I created it with a Montessori educator that specializes in mindfulness, and Dr. Gold, who is an expert in Chinese medicine, is one of the leaders of Chinese medicine education in America, and it's 3 albums that has one album is just music, second one is guided listening with a kid, guided the kids how to hear things within the music, and it's a kind of meditation, mindfulness to listen. And then the third one is mindfulness activities based on Chinese medicine, based on Montessori, with the music that I composed. And these 3 albums are helping so many children and families to deal with tantrums, with regulations, with um, eating, with focusing, with sleeping. It all has to do with regulation and energy levels. And the music and the mindfulness activities really help. This product was so successful in English that they asked me to produce it in 4 other languages. So it was translated to French, Spanish, Mandarin, and Hebrew. And so in China right now, they're starting a study on 1,000 autistic kids with this program, with the Kids Sanctuary, to see how it's going to affect autistic children. Because we created just for children, but now they want to try it with autistic kids in China, and we will get the study results in the summer. So we're hoping to have that. But this is my little contribution to children education, aside from what I do with my charity educational organization. But if people wanted to check it out, it's called Kids Sanctuary, and it's online. You can find it everywhere.
Excellent. Excellent. We're looking at starting with kids in utero.
Wow.
So we're going to do it for the parents and have them listen to and do each of the rhythms and find the note of the baby
Mm,
as to what rhythm and key they're in, so they can actually even tune into them at that point
yeah.
in utero, and then do all the way to kindergarten. So they get basically addicted to peace and wellness, right? So
Right.
they demand it in the schools.
Right. It's like our body demand, let's say if we do yoga every day, after 3 months, your body start demanding it. Or, when you play an instrument, if you practice every day, after a while, you just want to touch the instrument. You just want to play, you know. So you're right. There's a certain kind of a good addiction, physical and mental, that
Addiction to beauty.
yeah, that gives us a good feeling. It gives, it releases dopamine, it releases chemicals in the brain that affect our body and mind, and those are good when you do it in in this way. When you do it in an organic way, sound way, sound education. Yeah, I like it very much. This is wonderful. Um, yeah, that's the future. The children are the future, and they, if we endow them with wholeness, and harmony and beauty, they will have better chances to deal with the crises that we are going to face.
We
Like,
did a 6-month program with 3 to 6 year olds online, and it was just incredible to see. And we had them making the sound of love. It was so sweet. So
yeah,
speaking of music, let's do some and get
yeah,
in the zone.
yes, yes. I have a wonderful instrument here to get into the zone. This is called oud, O-U-D. It's the Middle Eastern lute, and it's the grandfather of the guitar. It's a fretless instrument. It's a very soulful instrument, and I would like to invite you to uh, a sound meditation journey, which will be about 6 minutes or so, where you can just relax. You could close your eyes, sit comfortably, relax your shoulders, and just let go and listen to the sound of the oud and just follow the sound and sense the qualities in your body and mind. Meaning, you may feel certain changes in temperature throughout this journey that I'm going to take you on. There will be a first part and a second part. And different images, different feelings may come through you. Just note them. Note them and just continue to listen to the sound. Focus on the sound. So here we are in a completely different feeling. I feel transported to another place. I even speak slower. You see, it's affecting it's about my brain waves are in a different mode. And I bet all of you, the people who are listening, were affected in some way. And I'm really curious to know how you felt, David, and how people felt, because this is intentional music. Yes, I improvised, but I will tell you the little secret about what I used. And what I did is I used two different musical modes in this improvisation. So I improvised, but it was not 100% free improvisation without a mode. I chose intentionally to start with a mode that is used in the Middle East for expressing longing and pain of separation. And you heard, and it's darker mode. It has more darker, and you could hear some crying tones, more crying in the music. You could hear and yes, the musical mode and the music is evoking this yearning to unite. And that's why it's being used in the Sufi tradition and in the Kabbalistic Hebrew Hasidic tradition as a journey from darkness to light, starting in darkness, in separation. Some people have an image that they are in a cave when I play that mode, or when they are indoor, they can't breathe well, they feel a little bit some irritation or agitation, or different people have different imagery. It's very interesting, but everybody feel some kind of constraint and some kind of yearning, and that is intentional. And then I segue without announcing it with a big fanfare musically. I smoothly segue into a different musical mode that is used to convey perfection, perfection of creation. And suddenly, if you notice the music, there was almost like a little bliss. There was some blessing and some peace and some roundness and some beauty that is round and more light than the first part. There was more light. So it was a journey from darkness to light. And I'm wondering if you felt something along this line, David.
It's almost exactly what I was going to say. A little bit of tension,
Yeah,
a little bit of anxiety with total longing.
yeah,
And I heard the crying notes,
yeah,
longing for the crying for like, oh, yeah,
yes,
right.
yes,
And so, and for the first half, right.
right,
And then the second half was total light and
right,
playful.
right. And it really cleanses you in a small, in 5 minutes journey. It really puts us in a just in a better feeling, and it be more just light and harmony in us. And how was it done? I'm in Los Angeles. You are in San Francisco area, right, David?
Mhm.
And the viewers maybe all over the world, and they would all feel something along these lines. And how it was, how could it be? Music can touch your brain, can affect your brain. And there's a field called psychoacoustics, which I studied in music school, and it's something that I use when I write music for films, and when I write music for doctors and scientists. And there's a way that our brain interpret certain sounds and combinations of sounds that is somewhat universal. And that is part of the way that music is being used as medicine, and always been used as medicine. You need a shaman musician to know how each music notes, combinations, and rhythms affect the psyche, the mind, the brain, and then the body of the listener. And that's the toolkit in a
There's
very simplified version. I'm just giving a very simple explanation.
there's a couple of interesting things that I'd like to add. Um, your energy, which even if we weren't watching you and just listening, is still there,
I'm
right?
still
And your energy is still. So even though the music was a little busy and has a lot going on, which is really good for in training the brain into fine higher alpha. Basically, you're basically creating alpha when you do that. Those like 18th and 36th note,
Yeah.
36, because it's very detailed. So the brain has to get very fast to be able to keep up, right? But you're holding this stillness
Yeah.
in the midst of that busyness,
Right.
and that's what's so sweet about it, because I'm watching you and you're just like you're so, I mean, you're not going
Right. Right.
right, you're
Right.
totally
That's a
center.
very interesting observation, David. Yeah, I mean, I think that the fast notes are part of the meditation for me. Because the way I do it, I'm listening to an inner voice. I'm listening in, and I hear something coming. I play a note, and that note vibration invites another note, and then another note invites another note, and that's how. And I'm trying just to play the notes that comes to me. So I hear dee-da. So I go and I do that,
So
So
check this out.
yeah.
What I teach in my recording classes is the essence of flow that you just described perfectly.
Mm,
And it's exact the ultimate flow is
right,
the Fibonacci curve.
right,
The
right.
past plus
Yeah.
the present equals the future. And
Yeah.
it's exactly what you just described. You
Yeah.
have perfect flow in the energy. So it's not, okay, here comes a different chord that my mind came up with, you're totally improvising in the flow.
In the flow. I call it the golden thread.
Nice,
Golden thread. And in
nice.
my book, the first chapter is called the golden
Ah,
thread, and I tell a story. It's like a fable called the golden thread about a flute player who lost the ability to play. He was a master flute player, and then he learned to play just with his breath, just the breath, just breathing through the instrument, and how he discovered the golden thread, and he learned to play the flute in a whole new way.
I love this because that flow state is applicable to all aspects of life, including business.
Yes, and gardening and sailing and making love and cooking and educating.
Uh-huh.
Edu
Uh-huh.
yeah, in my book, I argue exactly that exactly what you just said, David. I argue in my book, look, this is not just for musicians. I'm not expanding this just for musicians. You take it for all aspects of life.
So,
Yeah.
so check this out. You'll love this. So, in my book, what I talk about is a hierarchy of vibration, which is notes or frequencies, the timbre, which is a combination of frequencies, the musical interval relationships, and then the musical flow of rhythm and melody.
Okay.
And when in that level, it's all about flow. So you can look at the body as flow states. The 11 systems, when they're healthy, they're flowing. It's like a song flowing through each of the 11
Right.
medical systems, right?
Right.
And all the frequencies and notes of the cells and the timbres of the organs and the relationship of the organs are the musical intervals. It's really the flow through that whole musical system. And that flow also makes a healthy ecosystem.
Right. Right. Yes, I hear you. I
I
hear you.
love it.
And this connects to the concept of disease in a lot of the healers and doctors that I work with from Chinese medicine, from Ayurvedic medicine. They insist that it's all about flow of energy. And if the flow is not happening naturally, there's stagnation. There are blocks. And if there's stagnant energy leads to dis-ease and leads to disease. So it's all about, for them, it's all about clearing the blocks and letting the flow restore its natural flow.
Right? Which is not just physical, but also emotional.
Emotional.
And then even mentally,
Yeah.
flow is focus,
Right, right, right.
which is great for the kids.
We should add that to the course for the high school level.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
This is
So
great.
you also work with binaural beats as well, right? You worked with
Yes.
Robert Monroe, the master of the world with binaural beats. I mean, Robert like went into
Yes.
the zone and like figured out the structure of consciousness based on binaural beats, right?
Right. And I had no idea. I just finished music school in 1989 in Boston. And in 1990, the Monroe Institute contacted me. They found out about me from somebody, and I got to work with Robert Monroe on composition of music for his Hemi Sync sound. And I learned, and I had no idea that he was who he was. I just later I found out all that he did, that he was a pioneer researcher in the field, and for me, he was just a client with a very nice southern accent, deep voice, calling me every week from Virginia and giving me feedback about the drafts that I sent him. And he taught me how to create an arc of binaural beats that changes the brain waves of the brain from beta to alpha, from alpha to theta, from theta to delta, and then coming back up, back all the way to beta, and to create kind of a 30 minutes or 45 minutes session where the binaural beats that manipulate the brain waves changes according to the therapy plan that he had, and he had different configuration or different schemes, and he would give me this arc of the binaural beats pulsations and which brainwave they are being entraining the brain to go to, and he would tell me what it is associated with. For example, um, when you slow down the brain from beta, which is where we are now. I'll just very quickly explain to the listeners who are not familiar with that. Right now, as we are talking, David and I are probably in beta because we are thinking, thinking, thinking. We're analyzing, and you guys listening, you're all in beta, and which is very fast. Our brain vibrates something like bzzz. It's so fast that you don't hear the pulsation. It's just a buzz. And then if we were all to take 10 deep breaths and close our eyes and take 10 deep breaths, suddenly we would slow down our brain to about alpha, which is a little slower. And then we can go even slower if we slow down the brain further to about 4 to 6 pulsation a second. We would be in deep concentration, deep meditation, or deep sleep state, and that would be our brain would pulsate or vibrate about 4 to 6 times a second.
That's theta.
And then we can go even slower to delta, which there's few meditators in the world. Some Tibetan meditation masters, monks, have been found to slow down their brain when they meditate all the way down to theta, which is 2 to 4 pulsation a second, which is something like two. This is the slowest we can get. This is, if it's slower, you're dead. But this is the slower you can get. And so Robert Monroe developed this system he called hemi-sync sound because of the two sides of the brain, the hemispheres of the brain, the hemi-sync. The goal was to get both hemispheres of the brain to vibrate at the same pulsation, and also to entrain the brain to modulate the brain waves down to the slower modes of deep concentration, deep sleep, deep meditation, and to bring the brain there, and then to take the brain back to alpha, which is a calm but alert state. And my job was to write the music that would fit to this journey. And that's how I started learning about this field with Robert Monroe. Later, I learned, how important he was, and I felt so grateful that I got to learn from the master how to do binaural beats.
I love it. Well, have you ever tuned the binaural beats to the person?
No,
Oh
never.
my God. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years,
Oh, so
where I and we're
custom made.
actually creating an EKG and EEG device that will do it automatically. But what I've
Oh,
been doing is I've got the 12 notes and rhythms. So I've octavized down the notes to get the rhythms, and I play each of the 12 and see which one makes that person peaceful. And then I've got 48 CDs, one in delta, theta, alpha, and beta at each of the 12 notes, and give
ah,
it to them, tuned to them. And it's really effective. What's cool, there's one thing I want to share with you that's really interesting. When you actually make the rhythm in the same key, the key of the song is the same as the rhythm,
mhm.
then the binaural beats sync to both the rhythm and the key of the song.
Yeah, I've been doing that. Yeah, I like to do that. For me, it's very important because it's harmony. It's about harmony.
Right,
It's
right.
harmonizing the pulsation, the music, the vibration are being harmonized. So I always do that. So I choose to do the binaural beats based on the music. You see, so whatever the bass tone or the tonic or the even I've done it to some music that had chord changes, which was crazy. It was about 30 minutes long music that was not drone bass, and it had harmonies and it kept changing, and the client wanted it to be with binaural beats, and so we analyzed the root of the chord for each chord and had different binaural beats for this chord and then different binaural beats to this chord and this chord. So everything is in harmony. The bass pulsation of the binaural beats that create the third wave in the brain of the listener are in harmony with the music. Because I wouldn't imagine having it any other way, because for me it would cause dissonance, even though it's subliminal. And people do that. They just randomly putting binaural beats with whatever music. They say, "Oh, how about
Schumann resonance.
Sebastian Bach? Oh, we just take something from YouTube. Somebody's playing Bach piano, and we're gonna put some binaural beats randomly, and they put it together." I even seen a company that sells a device, and they were doing different audio things with that device, different audio programs that you can choose from, and then they told me what they did, and it was such a dissonant. It was a box of dissonance that they were selling as a device that would harmonize and bring harmony to your life. It was
It,
complete box of anxiety and tension.
it's really dangerous. I had a woman in class, and I'm playing the binaural, I'm doing the binaural beat class, right? And I'm going, playing some binaural beats that are like whoa, 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 whoa. And she just starts bawling. She's like, I can't be in here. This is making me crazy. So we all intuitively tuned into her note. 70% of the people got A, and I tuned the rhythm to A, and she goes, cool.
Ah.
It was fine the rest of the class, right? Oh my God.
This is
There's one
incredible.
other thing I have to share with you. You love this. What I do in my music is I'll meditate on an intention. Like if I'm doing a song on unconditional love, I go into the energy of unconditional love. And then I notice the tempo of my breath. And I set the tempo to the program to my breath. And
Lovely.
then I play on one chord on the in breath and another chord on the out breath so I can stay in unconditional love. And then I create the binaural beats based on that rhythm of my breath and
You,
the key of the song.
oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing. Talking about love, and you mentioned earlier somebody you work with kids to sing love, or you had some kids sing love. I got a call from a client of mine who's a healer, who created a harmonic egg. Her name is Gail Lean, She
Hmm.
created like an isolation chamber
Yeah,
where
they
she
use my music in it as the
use
main
your
music.
music. Excellent. Yeah. So we're in good company in a good space.
Yeah, yeah.
So Gail, one of the projects that she wanted me to do, and the most challenging one, was she said, how about if we find the frequency of love and you write music in this frequency? And I said, okay. So in the beginning, she said, let's go with Venus, because Venus is, this is association. So Venus is the planet of love and harmony. And so, what's the frequency of the planet Venus? There's some speculation about that. She came up with something. She gave it to me, and I started my research, and then she called it off. She found out that it was not scientific at all. It had, Venus is Venus, and it has nothing to do with love necessarily, as far as we know. And the frequency on Venus, we don't really know. And so we were kind of left in a vacuum. She didn't had any alternative scientific direction to go, and I just meditated on the problem. So how do I do the frequency of love? Okay, I can meditate on it myself and just then start playing from the meditation and find what comes out of me. But I felt that would be too subjective and just one case of love. This is just my version of love, and I wanted to have more wider lens of what is the vibration of love. And then it came to me. I called about 30 or 50 people that I know that are of different nations and of different languages. Their mother tongue is different. And I asked them to meditate on the person that they love the most. It can be their father, it can be their mother, it can be their kid, anybody that they really love, even if somebody that doesn't exist anymore on this planet. And when they really feel it, to say the words, I love you, out of this meditation in their mother's tongue. And I had about 40 or 50 adults and one kid's voice. And it was a beautiful project. What I did then, I hired an assistant, an orchestrator, to sit and transcribe in musical notes the intonation, the tonal pattern, and the intonation. Like if there's a band, if somebody in Italian said something, da 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 da, so there was a little band, a little glissandi, a little bend of the note. So the orchestrator was a violinist in her profession, professional violinist, and she noted every little note and notations and intonation in those phrases. And then I sat with all those themes. Little, it's just da 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 da, or da di da, or je t'aime, or whatever. And I created a piece for a harp and string quartet called "The Frequency of Love." Frequency of Love. It's out there. People can find it, and it's very sweet. It's very sweet, and that came out of the sound that is in the language. Music, the music that is in the language. That was the guide for this piece. A little bit, somewhat in the direction of what you were describing,
I
starting with
love
the
it. Oh
breath.
my God, that's so cool. That's just so
It's
cool.
amazing how many parallel projects we've done.
I know.
And
It's like I've
different,
known you
different,
forever. I know.
different perspectives on the
Yeah.
same, on the
The-
same, on the same target.
There's one thing that I've found is when people express love, they commonly go to the home note of the key of their voice,
Interesting.
right? I really love my kitty,
Uh-huh.
right? Some
The-
people go to the musical fifth. I love my kitty,
right,
right? And but people commonly go home. I love my kitty.
right, right. I love my son. Yeah. Yeah, they go home. They go home. Tonic is the home. and also it's the one, and the one has, implication of the one reality contained in the tonic. So going home is going to the one reality.
It's interesting because I was just talking about it in class last night. Jazz, they rarely go home. It kind of,
Right.
right?
They even end the melody. The last note may be very well the second, but not the
Hmm.
one.
Uh-huh.
They
That's
like it.
interesting.
They like it.
Whereas in sound healing, we go home all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Give it to them.
Right.
It's peace. It's peace.
Right. So I'll tell you, this is very funny. In Middle Eastern modal improvisation, in Middle Eastern musical mode, you don't modulate very quickly, and you don't jump from place to place very quickly. You very slowly develop, uh, and you don't change chords in traditional. It's modal. It's modal. There's a drone, and you improvise over a drone. So from their point of view, uh, in contemporary traditional Middle Eastern music, um, violinists and oud players and other clarinet players, all the musicians started to modulate into other keys earlier than it used to be in the past. And some people say, this is an indication of greater anxiety, meaning when you modulate all the time, that is an indication of high anxiety. Like, relax. I mean, how can you modulate anywhere before really exploring the place where you are? I mean, take your time. I mean, okay, after 5 minutes, 10 minutes where you are, okay, explore the nearby field, but right away to start exploring the nearby field, that shows something lacking in the grounding, in the roots, in the foundation. And then you think about jazz, and I love jazz. I love jazz. I studied jazz. I just released an album of jazz ballads at 40 hertz, where everything is tuned to 40 hertz. Jazz ballads in 40 hertz. I love jazz, but you think about jazz. In jazz, they change harmonies so rapidly, and there's modulations, and it's of course it's not a style that existed 200 years ago, when life were a lot slower, and people were a little bit more connected to nature, and people were, there were not so much the issues of modern life, and the environmental problems, and the anxiety problems, the level of depression that we have in these contemporary times. But you think about, um, jazz is an art form, a great, magnificent art form of the last 150 years, 200 years max, and it represents the restlessness, along with other things, but it reflects the restlessness of modern life and in the modern cities.
Interesting. When I think of jazz, I think of it teaching you how to hold your own home note because they don't go to it. It's teaching you because we hear it, we gravitate to it, and then it's the world is all going all over the place, but we're able to find it ourselves. So I see it as the best teacher ever.
Because it's so hard. It's so hard in the middle of all the restlessness and the changing chords to sense and feel holding to your root. And I think, yeah, it's a great metaphor. That jazz also was developed and created by the slaves that came from Africa that were uprooted, and in spite of it, created an art form that reflects the home that they were taken out of, the one home that they grew up from. And in America, they were away from that ground and the roots.
Wow.
And in spite of that, they created this incredible, amazing form. And there's many aspects of jazz, the blues in jazz and the cry and the freedom, the aspects of freedom in jazz is magnificent. That's one of the reasons that I love jazz is the sense of freedom, the sense of joy, the sense of personal expression. There's a story about Miles Davis being thrown out of the great classical school in New York. What's the name of the school? The famous classical school in New York City,
Oh,
Juilliard.
mhm.
He was in Juilliard and he was thrown out because his sound was too raspy. It was not clean and pure as they wanted it. For the classical music, they want such pure and clean sound. You can't. I mean, the level of personal expression in jazz and in world music is so high because you can you can scream your soul through the trumpet. You can create so many different levels of raspiness in through the trumpet, and that is the greatest. When I think about jazz, personal expression.
There's one thing that's coming to me over and over that I have to mention. The journey of the hero,
Yeah, Joseph Campbell. Yeah,
Joseph Campbell.
yeah,
The
yeah.
journey is home. Something happens to throw you off from being home. You go on the journey and
Right,
then you learn your lessons and you come back and you integrate it in home, which
right.
in one respect I've always thought of because I did a whole TV show on this. One respect, that's the blues chord progression,
Ah, yeah, 1 4 5.
right? You're home,
Yeah,
you go to
that's right.
to you go back and
Go to
forth,
the
but
fourth. You go
right
to
to
the
the
fourth,
fourth,
you go back home, but you can't stay there. You have to go to the fifth and then to the fourth, and then only you can come back home.
right, right,
A whole new appreciation.
right, 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 exactly.
That's great. It's funny, David, I teach improvisation to people that come to me to study Middle Eastern modal improvisation. And I used to teach also jazz improvisation, but I teach them with Middle Eastern is to start with the one. And I give them the analogy of a cat that you take the cat and you move to a new house. The cat is in a new place. So you don't let the cat out for 5 or 7 days because you want him to get the sense of the territory. So the cat is going from the first room that you're in, it's going to explore the second room, and then he comes back to the room where he was secure, and then he goes to the third room, and then he goes, and that's how slowly the cat explores the territory, and every once in a while on the first day comes back to where his food and the water, where the sense of home is. And I teach them to improvise like this in the beginning before they and slowly to build up and explore the house, explore the different stations of the world, of the mode, until they get to the octave. And I said, when they get to the octave, it's like the cat that graduated after 7 days. The cat is allowed to go out to the yard, and you know what? The cat will not run away and disappear because after 7 days, the cat has a sense of home. He will come back home. And so when you get to the octave, do whatever you want, go everywhere you want.
I
You
love
will
it.
come back.
I love it. Well, we're almost out of time. We haven't talked about 40 hertz because
Right.
so briefly, if you want to tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about around that.
Really, yeah, really, really brief. 40 hertz is a particular frequency within the gamma range, which we haven't talked about, but the gamma is faster than beta, and nobody really know what it is for. It's still yet to be discovered, but what was found in MIT that 40 hertz, which is like the note E1 on the keyboard, which is not exactly 40 hertz because the way the piano is tuned and the way the Western orchestra tunes, the E1 on the piano is about 41.23 or so hertz, which means 41 pulsation a second, 41 waves a second. But 40 hertz, which doesn't exist on the piano because we would need to detune the piano about a quarter tone lower in order to get E1 to be 40 hertz. That 40 hertz, which means 40 waves a second, or 40 pulsation a second, was found in experimentations in MIT to activate the cleaning system in the brain that is in charge of clearing the plaque of the memory cells, the memory pathways. And so it's very, very important discovery, because it can really be a breakthrough for people that suffer from dementia and Alzheimer and cognitive issues. So they found it in mice. They used that vibration to activate the clearing. They actually improved the memory in mice, and they did the first experiment with humans, and the study was published last December, just half a year ago. The first publication of a study in humans that was positive, just like with the mice. And now some of the doctors that have got involved with that contacted me, like Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Kogan from Washington University in DC, and Dr. Gold from Meta Mindfulness Music, and they said, look, people are sitting there being blasted with light, blistering light, flickering 40 times in their eyes, 40 flickering a second, in order to get 40 vibration in the brain through the visual nerve. And they give them sound that sounds like bzzz, and they want them to listen to this for an hour a day, so their cognitive functions will get better. Isn't there, the doctors asked me, isn't there a way to compose music, beautiful music that is relaxing and promoting healing in the key of 40 hertz? That would have a lot of 40 hertz vibration and its overtones, the 80 hertz, the 160 hertz, etc. And I said, look, we can do it, but we would need to tune all the instruments about a quarter tone lower, which, interestingly enough, is very close to the sound of the instruments in the desert, where I first start playing the oud, the Middle Eastern lute. The Bedouins in the desert, they always seem to be me. I always noticed that all the instruments were kind of quarter tone lower than our Western A440. So it's about A equal 421.1. It's that low.
Wow.
So you need to tune all the instruments down to A3 equal 421 hertz in order to get that note in E. And then I write all the music in the key of E. So I get a lot of tonic, a lot of 40 hertz in the tonic all the time. I use some ragas, healing ragas that have been used in India for promoting healing. And I created 3 albums so far. One is kind of new age music in 40 hertz. That's called Healing Power 40 Hertz Volume 1. Volume 2 is kind of world music in style of India and Iran. And Volume 3 is jazz ballads for piano and classical guitar, playing jazz, but soothing jazz in 40 hertz. And I'm working right now on I just finished a classical solo piano album, which we're going to record in the next few months. And I'm working on a vocal a cappella choral, which is going to be recorded by one of the greatest choirs in America, called Brigham Young University Singers from Utah. And they're going to record the first ever album in human history of a cappella choral works at 40 hertz, where they're going to have to sing in 40 hertz. And for the low note of the bass, the lowest note of the bass is E. And they used to sing the E at 41.23 hertz. And in my recording, they're going to have to tune about a quarter tone lower. So they're going to have to sing just a quarter tone lower than their normal low voice. But again, if you listen to the Tibetan monks, when they just chant that low E, they're a little bit off, they're a little bit flat, and guess what? They're about quarter tone lower, just intuitively. So there's something about 40 hertz that is healthy for our brain. It's promote increase blood flow in the brain for some reason. It increase recovery from chronic pain, from brain trauma. They're now looking into using it for focus and for heart issues. There's a whole field now of exploring 40 hertz beyond just the original intention was to use it to help dementia. And this is really, really in the early stages. It's very, very new. It's out there only in very selected places in the country. There's very few doctors that are using it, but they're really promising results, and I'm very excited about it because look, it's music, medicine, and it's so affordable. It's so democratic. You know, anybody could get the music and spend an hour a day and see how it affects their cognitive function and you know, that's the future. Music is medicine, and I think the future of medicine is vibrational medicine, which is music, sound. I think that's the direction it's going to go, and the pharmaceutical, the big pharma, have a big problem with that. That's why they're not investing in any research in this direction because you can't put it in a pill and put a patent on it. It's not chemicals, it's vibration and it's sound. And what you need is sensitive master musicians who work in concert with doctors and provide it to the people.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this has just been what a pleasure.
Oh, same here, David. So I'm so glad. I feel like, you know, we just had a friends conversation and we had so much going on and so many things to share. I mean, I didn't even feel it was an interview. This has been the most pleasurable interview, quote unquote. I would say this was the most pleasurable conversation I had in a long time about all these fascinating subjects that we care about.
I would like to continue and work with you. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
certainly.
it's just incredible.
Yeah, yeah. We'll keep in touch. Certainly. This
Well,
I hope this is just the opening, the intro.
excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your work and your time. It's just incredible what you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. We'll be in touch through email and hopefully we'll get together soon.
Okay.